Hey everybody, Will with Bonded and Bottles here, coming to talk to you about the latest pick at Maria's Marketplace. So to give you some scope, last year we got the great opportunity to do a single barrel pick with Dancing Goat Distillery, who's out of Wisconsin, of their Limousin Rye, which you can find on shelves and stuff like that. They started doing single barrel picks not that long ago. Didn't really know what to expect. Had never really had their base shelf product, at least in large quantity. Never owned a bottle of it. So I didn't really know what it was going to be like. I don't know if they did this only for us or if they're doing it for select retailers. But when we got the samples, we were pretty astounded. We came to learn that they take their rye whiskey and age it in the French Limousin oak casks, which imparts unique flavor already. But then they secondarily age it again in DG port casks. Now, I don't know anything about port or sherry or any of those kind of offshoot, spirits or wines. But what I can tell you for sure is that, of course, like any other wine, it imparts a darker color on the whiskey in the end. Now, I've seen a lot of different whiskeys that have been aged in sherry or port or other various wine casks, and you usually get a little bit of color from that. But we were so taken aback at how dark this rye came out. This is the bottle from last year, which I don't know if it really picks up on the camera, but this whiskey is so dark. It's a ruby red sort of color. So we ended up naming it Kool-Aid Rye because obviously it looks like Kool-Aid or wine or something other than whiskey that's in your glass, which we found very, very cool. The only other type of whiskey I've ever seen like this, a rye whiskey specifically, is actually Midwinter Nights Dram. If you're familiar with that, it comes from High West. They release it once per year. It's very hard to find, typically very expensive, and even just recently went up $50 in price, shelf price. So this rye ends up being a fantastic substitute if you can't find Midwinter Nights Dram and you sort of like the flavor profile of it. Because just like Midwinter Nights Dram, again, this is further aged in port casks. It is a rye. It floats around the same proof as Midwinter Nights Dram. The great thing is it's close to $50 to $55 per bottle, though. So you're going to save a little bit of money as well. This is the whiskey kind of poured out in the glass in case you can see it a little bit better. Kind of hard to see probably, but it is definitely very, very dark in the glass, way darker than we anticipated. So last year's pick was awesome. Almost had sort of like a smoked cocktail aroma, lots of great, sort of juicy, dark raisins in there and apricots and this sort of great spice mixture. And of course you get that port influence, which typically aids in like the raisiny sort of dark fruit flavor. I really enjoyed last year's pick and the club loved it as well. So we were lucky enough to do another pick of this, which just came in. Same thing. They took the rye and aged it in the French Limousin oak and then further aged it in DG port casks. So yet another very, very dark whiskey, probably even darker than this year's from the looks of it. The age went up slightly. I believe that last year's pick hovered around 6 years old, whereas this year's is 6 years and 7 months. Not a huge swing, but definitely some further aging, which is nice. The other thing is the proof point. Last year's proof was 96.4. This year, this bottle is 106 proof. So a little bit of a proof difference. We'll see how that helps the whiskey to open up and maybe give it some further flavor and maybe a longer finish. We'll see. I'm very excited to dive into this. Just released it this week. Maria's Marketplace has just north of 200 bottles of this great single barrel pick. So if you are in the club, definitely go check that out. Let's dive in. Oh man, that's definitely even darker than last year's. This looks like actual Kool-Aid in my glass. It is red. It's like a ruby red. Man, that is insane. Those darker winey sort of notes, wine notes, I shouldn't say winey, darker wine notes, raisins, apricots. Oh, yeah. So what I love is when you take the sip down, there's like this wave of like juiciness that comes forward. There definitely is that warmth from being 10 proof points higher than last year's pick. I think it's a great balance of letting that spice come through from the rye and letting those flavors come through. But obviously you have a very heavy influence from that port cask, which is really nice. It drinks on the darker side. You sort of get a little bit of those juicy notes. Sort of herbaceous on the nose, too. Yeah, that's a very nice rye. If you gravitate towards any of those flavors in Midwinter Nights Dram, I find no probable reason that you would not love this bottle. If you're in the club, get a bottle. If you're local to Maria's Marketplace, which is in Canton, and you're not part of their whiskey club, you are missing out. You can learn about all the latest releases and what we have coming down the pipe by joining and signing up for the club. Check it out. I hope you guys enjoy the bottle if you do end up getting one, and I love this stuff. I'm so glad we did another pick of this. I really don't think you're going to find a whiskey that's any darker than this one, man. So, cheers.